Hello, welcome to episode 12 of Sister Confessions. And I think we have a great episode coming up. So, we wanted to kind of continue from our last conversation from episode 11. But before we get to that, we want to do a check in. So, Michelle, we're checking in. How are you? How are things going over in your world? I see you're not outside.
You see what?
Not outside.
Oh yeah, no. I had to kick out the family again because with our time schedules and you being on the East Coast and me being on the West Coast time, um you couldn't do it till it was later for me, so it's later for you, and it's 100 degrees now.
Oh my gosh.
So I knew that would not work outside. Um So I asked my husband without asking him. I said, it's
There's
100 degrees.
There's a term for that, and I heard it's called voluntold. You didn't
What's it
volunteer.
called?
Voluntold.
Oh, voluntold. Yeah.
Volunteer.
Yeah. I try to, I don't know if it's a good thing or not. But I try not to make demands, and I try to put it out there. So like lead him to say,
I'll take the kid.
voluntold. Yeah. Because no one likes to be demanded at, or I don't know. I try to make it a conversation versus I need you to do this, which it might just be more helpful for him. He probably thinks I'm playing mind games, and I'm not. I'm trying to just gently tell him. Um so he took the family out, and I have like about 45 minutes to an hour before they get it here.
Okay,
So
so we're going to talk really fast this episode because we have a lot to say, and we're going to get into it. Ready? Let's go. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
That's like my worst nightmare.
To talk fast.
I have so much anxiety right now. I'm so slow when I talk.
Take the kids. Thank you for your support. And you know what, Michelle, let's just really get into it because you just said that was your worst nightmare. And I'm going to set this up because the last episode we were talking about kind of towards the end of the episode, if you didn't listen to it, episode 11, tips, tricks, and trauma. We talked about a lot of different things. One of the things that we had talked about was a podcast that you listen to and how he speaks, like using really big fancy words, really bugged you. And
Yeah.
and I had shared my thoughts on that. So every week, Michelle and I, we have a watch party. So we'll watch the whole podcast and edit it if it needs to be edited and find our thumbnail. And it's been a fun thing where we laugh at ourselves, or sometimes I cry at myself, whatever. But so we had a great conversation that we did want to continue here on the podcast about why do some people bother us? Like, I mean, the goal is that we're loving and kind and embrace everybody. Like that is the ultimate goal. But the truth in reality is that's not the truth in reality for most of us, is that some people rub us the wrong way, or we, get irritated by different people. And so we want to talk more about that. So
Yeah, the whys, like, and you would think you're just not compatible as people, but in my experience and what I've been learning, is really actually this person has traits that you have that you don't like about yourself, and that's what makes you not like this person, and you don't even know it. Like I said, that guy with the big words really annoyed me. And if I didn't talk to you, it would have just been like, I still listen to it. It's not enough for me to not listen because he talks about great things. But if I didn't discuss it with you, I don't think I would have ever looked at it differently to be like, this is probably because I struggle with my words, and that he has words that can describe what he wants to say, and I always feel like whatever's inside me, the words that I know don't do it justice, so I'm always struggling to find a word, and I don't have it. So he must have it, and maybe I'm supposed to talk like him to best represent what I have inside me that needs to get out, and I can't do it. So I didn't think of it like that though. I was just like, this guy needs to just talk normal, like stop saying supercalifragilisticexpialidocious for it's nice outside. Like
Those damn
um
poets.
yeah. So it was, and then I started thinking who else bugs me. um and
Going to confess that list right here. Confessions.
no, no, but I have experienced, you're at work all the time. I've experienced people I work with that really get under my skin. But if I really think deep down, um, I suffer from imposter syndrome, and a lot of people do. And I never heard that term until a couple years ago. And it simply is just you don't feel like you're good enough to do the job you're supposed you're like in your career, and you feel like you're not good enough for that job, when in fact, in actuality, you're very good at your job, but you as a person, we, I mean, superstars feel that way, actors feel that way, big singers feel that way. It happens to a lot of people, and I've noticed the ones at work that um would irk me would be the ones that I felt like, why are they so confident and they're not good at their job? Like there's a lot of people that are like super cocky and they suck at their job, and I'm not saying I'm amazing, but I could do my job. I know I can, but I have this feeling deep down inside, you should not be here. This is not, who do you think you are? So but that's looking, deep into it. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, oh, they bother me, and they just complain and don't actually take the time to why, and then once you understand why, you can, mm, it helps you with not letting it get to you so much because you know why. There's a why to everything.
Yes. Um, yes, one and that was part of the conversation that we had was why do some people bother you? Like it might mirror or reflect our own insecurities.
Yeah.
And another aspect to that could just be past trauma. Like they trigger us for some reason. It's not
Yeah.
always because,
The
or
insecurity.
something else. There's so many reasons, but exactly what you're saying. If you're just like, I think an important part is to like vulnerably look at this situation holistically and being humble to be able to honestly assess the situation, because if we're just prideful and be like that other person blah 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 blah, that we have a part in it too, plays into it, and it's painful to sometimes be vulnerable in that way to look at ourselves and try to figure that out.
Yes. Do you have any examples?
No, I don't want to talk about it. I do. So, in 2020,
I believed you. I'm like, okay, well, let's move on to the next topic. This
So
is
let's
how
talk with you about my struggle with this. 2021, I was working somewhere for a couple of years, and this new woman was hired, and we were like oil and water. Like we are completely opposite. And it took a toll on my mental health in every aspect of my life. I've never had this situation before. I usually get along with people well. I've never had a big problem with a coworker. And it was, I actually, like, I tried to resign from my job a few months after, like 7 months after she was hired. I met with the leader there. I was like, I can't take this anymore. This- my husband encouraged me. He was like, you need to like tell them that this isn't working, because I come home like every week I was going to quit. Like, and so for me, in my experience from this particular experience, was we were vastly different. She was very type A, need to get it done this way, and I'm more go with the flow, and that was the culture of the environment anyways. But like, we're all chipping in, doing the best that we can. I had my workload was immense, and she was hired to help me with that too. Um and I kept going to the Bible of like, I asked God, what do I need to learn from this? Because and I knew if I quit now, then it's going to be twice as bad at my next job. If I don't learn this lesson, what is my lesson? Like, to be humble, to be loving, to be understanding. And it was a really difficult thing. I remember talking with you about this. Yes, Michelle.
question. When you just listed those things, was that your answer? Like, did you receive that as an answer? Be humble, be um, patient, or are you just listing things?
I was just listing that's what we need to do with all people.
Oh, okay.
It's
That
not
wasn't like something that came to you
no,
from. Okay, okay.
I didn't actually. Well, and it was very difficult for me. So it was very difficult. Anyways, whenever I go and read the Bible, I remember one day I was reading, and I started listing out all these Bible verses kept coming in, like, do not grumble, do not complain. And I was complaining, venting to my husband, family members, like, it's just impossible at work. It seems unfathomable how bad it was. Like, she she was a lovely woman, but her and I working together just did not mix. I accepted her process and said that's not how I work, but if that's how she works, that's fine. But I don't think she accepted my process, and I felt um I remember talking with you one time, and you said you had asked, like, is she triggering you? Does she remind you of anybody in your past? And I don't know. It was really, really difficult. So yeah, I do have that experience of, I do think she was triggering for me, for someone in my past. And what my lesson was like, she became this a huge distraction in my life. Like, this whole situation took over my mental well-being, my physical well-being. Like, I was distraught. I was lost joy in my work. I lost confidence in my work. I always felt critiqued. She verbally abused me and came after me and said some really horrific things that I've never been accused of in my life. And it just was a really hard situation. So I ended up quitting, I don't know, a, a year and a half after she started. But it was hard, and it's still something that's not resolved, I guess. Like, I have to let it go. I perhaps need to write actually, that's one of the next steps in Celebrate Recovery that I'm doing, is to write amends. And I have this list of people that I want to make amends with, and she's on the bottom because I know that I have to do that at some point. I'm just not exactly sure what to say. But anyways, yes, very triggering to me. And I think the biggest lesson, like I said, is that not to let anyone take a hold of our mental well-being. It's not worth it. Like, why did I allow that situation to overtake my joy for my work and my confidence in my work and my mission in my work? I allowed her in that situation to like ruin that for me, and it's not worth it. Like, I yeah, that's all I have to say about that, I think.
Mhm. You made me think of a quote you mentioned on a previous one about kind of like the boundaries, not letting you want to let someone come and trash your house and then invite them again. You would, you know what they do to you and you don't allow that to happen again. But it is a little bit hard when it's someone at your workplace that you have to deal with every time, every day, and someone you're working so close to. So yeah, you can set boundaries like that, to people you, friends that you see on occasion and are toxic for you. But for the workplace, I think we have to go within more to understand why it is the way it is. Ram Dass has a quote I love. I have it on. I have it in my office at work, actually, hanging up, and I had to read it every day. And it says something like, I'm not going to quote it exact because even though I look at it every day, um, as long as you have certain desires of how it should be, you'll never see how it really is. So as long as you're looking at work, at life, where whatever your, it's like expectations. As long as you're like things should be there this way or that way, you're gonna be looking through the life through those, that lens, through those goggles, and you're always gonna have issues with everything. So as long as you have certain desires, in your case, on how it should be working with someone, I don't know exactly what she did or what you did to have to collaborate together, but as long as you have certain desires of that particular person, that particular position, an ideal thing, you wouldn't see how it actually is in real life. You're in your own head and your own perspective. And so what I'm saying is to go within and wonder, try to understand why it is the way it is in your mind, and to, I mean, if you didn't quit and you'd still be there, you'd have to learn a way to
Block it.
see her differently. No, see, maybe
Block
see
it.
her for who she is versus through the trigger goggles that you had on.
Yeah.
I, I,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I mean that's for that particular situation, but just in general, we
Right.
all see life through our own perspective, and no one's perspective is the same as another person's because we have all our history that no one else has except you.
Right. Yeah. So that was one experience somewhat recently, or actually the most prevalent in my life, where it was just, it took a grip on my every aspect of my life. It was and I know it was a challenging, just as challenging it was for me. I'm sure it was very challenging for her too. Um, we had a mediator that met with us. We went to like spiritual counseling and met with someone. She met with them individually. I met with them individually. We've tried to define boundaries within the workplace to help, like, I mean, we went through lots of things to help figure out this dynamic, but it was a very toxic dynamic that I don't know. And, sometimes we'll never find out though. But I do appreciate when I was talking with you about that, because you did ask, does she remind you of anyone in your past where you're getting triggered? And perhaps there is something to that. I don't know. But this whole like mind work, do you have more to say about this? Because I'm going to transition.
Um,
Just how,
no, but you talking to me and me knowing your history, I saw a pattern
yeah.
of the things that you said, and that's why I asked that question, because I did see a pattern, and and how it affected you so much.
Yeah.
I was just like, and I know, I don't know, were you going to therapy at the time?
I was not going to therapy, but
Mhm.
I did see a therapist a couple of times about the situation. So it wasn't long term. It was kind of like
Yeah.
help me deal with this, but it wasn't like a long term
Yeah.
thing. Like I'm doing.
And if it's just for that situation, that's fine to help you deal with that situation, but it's deeper than that.
Right.
It was a trigger of something that you haven't worked on, of the original, the origin of it.
Yeah.
The once that's worked on, you could work with people like her or other people that are like the person in your past. And um
Can I say something about that? The importance and the beauty of having a Michelle in their life or someone close or outside perspective, because when you're
yeah,
wrapped in it, it's really hard to see
yes,
that outside perspective. So we are
that's
obviously big
very true.
proponents of therapy, but even if it's not therapy, a trusted friend or a mentor or someone in your life where you can be able to share these things, and to also encourage, if you're seeing something like this, give them your perspective, like speak up, say something, because they might not have that clarity or that perspective because they're so tied up in it. So that is a great point of like the importance of having, because I couldn't see it. I was so wrapped up in it. But you knowing me your whole life, me
Yeah.
knowing you most of my whole life minus 4 years. um,
Yes, and also though, to be open to, when you're discussing this to someone, to receive that information, you don't have to do anything with it, but sometimes you're complaining, we all complain. Sometimes you're complaining about someone, and if that person is seeing a pattern and tells you, uh, don't block it, don't get
yeah.
defensive, or sometimes it's hard, sometimes because you're not ready to receive that. Maybe you just want to vent. But so I guess what I'm saying is, to add to what you're saying, if you go to someone with the issue, let them know that you want the advice or not, because you may not be, you may not be ready to hear whatever it is they're gonna say. So it would be good to start the conversation of, I'm struggling with this, and if you have any input, or I'm struggling with this and I just need to talk it out. I don't want input. And
Hmm.
then so then you don't get things told to you that you don't want to hear, and
Or
it turns
aren't
into an
ready,
awkward.
yeah, or
Yeah.
aren't receptive. That's just a great point in like most deep, hard conversations of, I just get this off my chest? I'm
Yeah.
or hey, do you have any feedback? Like set up that conversation. Because there's sometimes where I'm just like processing out loud. I don't really want other people's, I'm not open to it or at that place. And then other times, absolutely, like I'm at my wit's end. Please tell me what you think. Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, and a lot of times people, if you're, including me, if you're telling me something that's bothering you, I think I want to help you, so I'm gonna try to give you advice. That was yesterday, um, in the storm, and I mentioned we had a couple of trees that fell, so we're gonna work on the yard, and my husband was complaining of, oh, I have to do this and that and this and that in the yard. And it was around this time yesterday, so it was 100 degrees outside. And that's too, I told him, that's it's too hot outside. Wait till it gets cooler, like 6 o'clock. And then he was like, well, because we were gonna barbecue later, so he was like, well, we're making dinner at that time, so I need to do it now. And then I'm like, okay, well, no, I was just, I'll go out there with you. Well, we'll do it as a family. I was just saying all these things, and he's like, can you just let me complain? Well, yes, but you didn't tell me that in the beginning, so I'm just trying to make it better.
Well, when I was actually going to look it up on my phone. During that time, I had kept a list of Bible verses that were coming up that I felt convicted about. And one of them was do not grumble. And like we were, yes, we can share our feelings and stuff, but we need to not always be complaining about things. And I felt really convicted at the time because I was grumbling a lot about the situation and how I was perplexed that it was happening and how I don't understand. So, yeah, there's a
I
lot of
mean, you have to let out the emotion somehow. But maybe that that verse was more towards like, don't just complain, not do anything about it. Like if you're just complaining and complaining, nothing's gonna change. Um, but I do think you need to let it out, not keeping the negative energy in your body because your body holds on to these things if you don't let it out. So let it out, but don't stay in that loop. That go voice it, and then I don't know. I go within lately. Like I was talking about the breathing and meditation. I've been doing this month. I've been doing it daily to where I'm not really even like setting time, a specific time anymore. I'm just making sure I do it every day. To I don't even have to like go in a quiet area, and I do it in the middle of the workday. Like I go to the bathroom and I'm just like, just do it. Just going within and asking for advice within in your internal. You have your soul that is way more wiser than you in your head, and you talk to that and get regrouped. And but what I'm saying is, um the complaining part, what else? So you got to let it out. No.
right. But at some point, I,
Yeah.
I do grapple with it. I'm not much of a complainer, but there is like speaking truth, and sometimes truth isn't always positive. I know. Yeah, but you're right. It's doing something for it. It's not just
In the
swirling
loop.
around
Yeah.
and um yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts
Well,
about this? Because I'm gonna transition.
go ahead.
Okay.
You can transition.
But I guess let's recap it because we talked a little bit about it last episode about if there's someone in your life who really bothers you or irritates you, that there's a reason. Like what about them? Do they remind you of yourself? Are they triggering from, past issues that you haven't dealt with?
Yeah.
Are they highlighting your insecurities? Like, and it's hard to look at that openly and kind of figure that out. It's
Yeah.
very vulnerable. But the point is to do the hard work because it will be more beneficial throughout your life if you can figure it out. Then you're not holding on to this like, ugh.
Yes, I agree.
That kind of is a nice transition. So something else I wanted to talk about today. Um, I don't want this to be Desiree podcast, but speaking about vulnerability and stuff, I am right in the thick of therapy. You have experienced lots and lots of therapy and growth and spiritual and emotional,
Yeah.
and it's hard. So I was in a Celebrate Recovery meeting a couple weeks ago, and this woman had said that she just started therapy, but she doesn't want to do it because it's going to be hard. And I've had these like big revelations in my therapy over this past month. And so it was my turn. I did speak to that. I'm like, it is so hard, but it's gonna be like it's worth it if we're not processing and working through these things that we didn't even realize were part of our limiting beliefs, part of our thought processes. If we're not addressing it, then we're just going to keep operating in that way, and these different things are going to keep triggering us, and we're going
Yeah.
to the importance of processing these things. And sometimes we just have no idea how our past experiences or traumas or issues or whatever is continuing on with us through our life. So I am I was kind of debating about talking about this because I'm not on the other side yet, and it feels very vulnerable. Like last Thursday, I was driving to Celebrate Recovery. My meetings are on Thursday, and my spirit felt exposed. I don't know. And then in worship, I felt that we listen to worship music and all the Bible verses that we went over. I just felt like I just wanted to cry the whole meeting. And I was thinking, like, why am I feeling so vulnerable? And it's because of this work that I'm doing. Like, I go to counseling every week, and some things have been illuminated to me about some of these limiting beliefs that I've had that I didn't even know that I operated under. And it's hard work to like, so now I'm questioning everything. Like, if something happens, I'm like, okay, it's easy to default to our past thinking. And normally I would, just think about the positive and move on. I wouldn't process it to clear it out, I guess. So now I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I have this trigger worksheet I had shared episodes ago of that. I'm like processing everything of like, why is this bothering me, or why am I feeling this way, and getting down to the nitty gritty of it. And it's been um beautifully difficult, I would say. I don't know. So I just want to encourage anyone, if you are struggling with your mental well, or even if you're not, I like, even it's always so good to see someone and just a mental health check-in. And how are your different relationships, and how are things going on your life, and like a check-in, because there's some things that could be brought up that it's like, oh my gosh, I've never addressed this. I need to tend to this because it will just make me a better person and a better wife and a better mother and a better friend. And okay, I'm done.
And even just make your life easier. No, it is not in the beginning and in the middle.
In the middle.
And then every all of it. It's not easy at all. I mentioned it before that I in the beginning I would cancel because I didn't want to deal with it because okay, at first I treated it as a doctor's appointment. So I would go in the mornings before work and then I go to work. And then I was like, once I started getting into this work, like of working on myself and getting into it, I could not work after that. My brain I was in a whole other zone of I couldn't switch like that, especially working through it. And then once my counselor like said I'm not you're wasting my time. I was like, okay, I gotta take this seriously. So I mean, I took it seriously. That's why I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's just like what your um, acquaintance said to you. And so I kept going, and then I changed it from, instead of after therapy I go to work, I made it in the morning on the weekends to get out of the way, and then continue with my weekend. And even that, like, I was not able to just, you are, you being there starts the process, and then you're just processing till the next time you go to therapy again to bring more stuff up, and then you're processing the whole week. And it is very tiring, very, it's hard work, and I admire everyone that is actually working on themselves, because it is hard. And me been doing it nonstop for 10 years, I am on the other side, and I can say I look at life through a different lens and not a triggered lens. I still get triggered, but I know I'm getting triggered versus not knowing, and life's happening to you.
Yes.
Life isn't happening to you. You are living your life, and if you realize that you have control once you work on yourself, on how you feel, it it's a beautiful thing. And I never thought I'd say that ever in my life, that I would oh, I'm gonna cry. I never thought I'd say life is beautiful. Never. But it is. It, as long as you work through the things that are causing life to not be good.
Yeah.
And it's all within, it's all inside of us. It's all inside of us. I, we all have our, the things that happen in life. Like I said, life happening to us. That's how a lot of us feel. And what shapes you. And then, but once you work through that and realize that it is not happening to us, it is happening, and we're in it. And I'm just rambling right now.
No.
But um it is, you can, if I could do it, anyone can do it, because I was very, very, very low, most of my life.
I
So
think it's
these are happy tears, okay?
happy tears. Yeah, I think about even when you said you first started going to therapy, and I was the first boundary that you had. I think about even just that instance. First of all, your therapist saying you don't have to go. Like, just that alone, I bet was mind blowing. Like,
Yeah,
if it's my
it
sister,
was.
of course I have to go. Like, wait a second.
Right.
Hold on, like, and then anytime something comes up around that time or whatever, like, okay, I have a choice, and it's hard to not go back to default thinking is what I'm experiencing right now. But I imagine something comes up and you're like, I have to go. Okay, no, I'm in
Yes,
control of my life. I'm in
yes,
control of my decisions. I feel an obligation to this, but that is not true. The truth is, I have control of my life. So,
yes,
this is just a simple example of the the revelations that we can experience in therapy, or having that, whatever anyone's issue is. We all have issues, and we all have, it's the gamut, and some of us are better at dealing with things than others. But whatever our issue is, that we might not even understand that, and then for you to take the next step and to share that with me, I'm sure was super difficult. And so I so that is what I'm going through right now, is my revelations and my illuminations of my issues that I was never really aware of. And it's like my life wasn't a mess. I had great relationships, and but there were some things that I had never really addressed or hadn't really even known that I operated with this limiting beliefs or like default thinking, that now I'm like battling it. It's like a battle in my brain now. Like, okay, I find myself thinking about something automatically, and then I'm like, okay, no, hold on a second. That was my old thinking. Now that I know where that's come from, and now I'm like processing all of that. It reminds me of this Bible verse. I feel like I'm right in this process right now of Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what the will of God, what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. And so I'm doing this renewal of my mind right now that I know is only going to make me stronger, better, more humble, more loving, more acceptable, less triggered. But I'm not on the other side yet. And before we started recording, Michelle and I were talking, and we have talked about this a little bit. Like, it's really hard and vulnerable to talk about, our when we're not on the other side, things that we're struggling with right now. But that is why we started this podcast, is we wanted to share a journey and um, open up the conversation for the different aspects in our life and what we've learned. And Michelle, I appreciate your honesty through your struggles, and your wisdom and insight in my life has been invaluable. And so, yeah, it's hard work. I'm in the thick of it. I'm um
How brave of you, because I yes, I was like, yeah, let's do this podcast. I've been through what you're going through. So I wouldn't feel like I would be able to do a podcast if I'm in the middle of it. Like, so how brave of you to come on and share your experience as it's unraveling with you. And I love that, because for the viewers of seeing, witnessing your journey and mine, being the one that has been through it and then one that's going through it, and how we can just help people through our experiences, and especially you being in it, because a lot of people are in it right now
in
and
it,
not wanting to continue.
right, or should be in it, but don't want to start because it's so hard.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes, but you have to, that's the thing also, like, I I want to encourage, I keep like, you need to be in therapy, you need to be in therapy, but you have to want it, or else, because it's hard work. I If you don't want it, then you're not gonna work on it, and then it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
Um,
value. I think about that. People who go to rehab or whatever, sometimes they go to, or anger management classes, or because they have to. I worked with, as a social worker, a lot of parents who were mandated to go to like um, drug rehabilitation classes or anger management or whatever, and they just did it because they had to.
to get the certificate, yeah.
Right, to jump the hoop, but they didn't want to, they weren't in it, maybe they weren't ready, and you have to be ready and willing to accept it, to be able to glean, all the insights and learn from it. Otherwise, you're rejecting it. Oh, this isn't for me. This is for all the bad people, or this is for them. They need that.
Yeah,
I don't. It's very humbling,
yeah.
and it is hard, but the beauty of it, like even just seeing your tears a few minutes ago of like Michelle, who suffered from depression her whole life and has been suicidal countless times, to be able to say that life is beautiful and be able to attribute that majority to the hard work she's already done in therapy. It's worth it. Like, life is beautiful, and we can live a more abundant life, more fulfilling life through going through this hard. the hard work of understanding things about ourselves, understanding about our experiences, how we operate our mind, and how, our mind works in collaboration with our body and our health. I mean, all those things, it's worth it. So, yes, I do feel a little bit uh, very vulnerable about sharing. I mean, I just that it's hard, I guess, and I find myself reverting back to my old way of thinking and the process of like, okay, it's exhausting. I feel depleted when these things come up, but once I'm training my brain, like I'm renewing my mind right now. Once these things come up and it will become more habitual and me just like, okay, no, this is the truth. Or, oh, I know where that's coming from now, and that's not true. This is true. So,
Yeah.
and we all have our issues, whatever they are. Everyone struggles. And here's another thing. You say that you're on the other side and you have these tools to continue
Yeah.
with life, process life. I don't I don't imagine I'll be on the other side. I imagine this is a lifelong process of like, yes, what I'm learning now, but something else is going to come up and, a year, 2 years, and I'm gonna have to learn how to navigate through that. But
True.
having this like deeper understanding is like the catapult into like a healthier, balanced life.
Yes. True. And you're right. When I say other side, I just mean the hard work of retraining.
Yes.
Um, I'm not I haven't made it. I still, have things, but the retraining, I know, like you said, I know the tools now. Before I didn't know the tools and I was going through boot camp and it was very, very hard. But now I can, with a constant once a week with my therapist for 10 years, and even appointments, I have it in my she got to the point, I know, 8 years in, she'd be like, what would I tell you when I'm telling her these things? She's like, what would I say? Like, I don't know. That's why I'm here. It's like, I've seen you for 8 years now. What would I say? And then I'd have to, because like you said, when you're in your situation, you can't think of anything else. You're in your situation. Uh, can't see any other perspective. So her saying that helped me now to where I wouldn't say what would my therapist say, but I would think now if something is bothering me or I have issues of something, it's not so hard to redirect. And I've already worked through these things that are, um, if I get triggered now, it's not so uh traumatic a trigger. It's not a traumatic trigger. It's just something that's annoying, or I keep using that word annoying, but it is something that is bothering me. But I can look into it now on my own without needing a therapist to guide me through it. So when I say other side, I don't mean, hey, I'm perfect now. I just mean I can do the guidance with myself. Yeah, there is no end
There's no,
point.
yeah,
No.
but
But it is, I don't want to say that and discourage people. You're able to help yourself.
right, there's a deeper insight that we
Yeah.
have, an understanding. Like you said, the world just happening to you, the world is happening with you, and you can kind of conceptualize and things in a healthy way, or not based on these misconceptions or limiting beliefs that you had before, because you know what those are and you know how you were viewing life through that way.
Yes.
And so
Thank
that,
you.
yes, that
Well
enlightenment, yes, that enlightenment that you can get through. I mean,
said.
of course, people, who have followers of Jesus and God, who have their faith in Him. The Bible gives us a lot of. That's what the Bible is about renewing our mind and the life of sanctification and um, striving for holiness and learning how to live like that. So there's lots of wisdom in that way, but also having someone that, like a professional to help us in those situations, to guide us in that way, is helpful too. So yes, we wanted to continue that conversation of last week because I
Yeah.
felt like there was more about people who bother us. And
Yeah.
hey, so if there's anyone that bothers you, list them in the comments right now. We want to know who they are, why they bother you, and just kidding. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
um, oh, also, I had a correction. The last episode, episode 11, we were talking about how our physical bodies can, like, keeps the score. So
Retain.
the book I referenced, I think I said Your Body Keeps Count, but the book is called the Your Body Keeps a Score. I have not read it. Uh, I do hope to read it, but how profound our bodies are, dealing with stress and dealing with trauma and dealing with all these unprocessed things that we're holding on to mentally and emotionally. Our body holds that in, and it
Yeah.
can, come out in a lot of different ways. So
Yes. I heard chronic back pain is a lot of unprocessed trauma, and there's so much back pain out there. Um, your back holds a lot of that. That's what I've heard. Don't
we're
quote
not
me.
experts. Do your own research.
But I do have a lot of back pain.
Well,
But
but yours is from car accidents. You can't
yeah,
really separate that. I mean,
uh, yeah, that's true. Um, maybe um, once I get healed from it, if I do, and then it starts hurting again, maybe it's the trauma I haven't worked through. It's all maybes
maybe
until you read the book, and it helps you identify what you have.
what you have and the importance of working through all of this. So um I have a major milestone in my life right now. I've been going to celebrate recovery for over a year now, every week, and I also do the step study. It's been phenomenal. I highly recommend it for anyone who's a believer. Everyone struggles with something. Like, when you hear about recovery, you think about people who are like an addict, but this really is for just recovering from our sinful selves, I guess, like our natural tendencies of whatever people are dealing with. I've said it, but people go there dealing with depression and anxiety and alcohol and control and not being satisfied in their life, ungratitude, all the different things. So I just finished, I think it's step 4 is the moral inventory. And I just finished it last week with my mentor. It was intense because you kind of go through your whole life of past hurts or any resentment you hold, and you process that. So I am in counseling. I've processed a lot of it before, and I have processed things before in counseling, like, years ago. But it was an interesting process to, like, categorize things and see it on paper and work with a mentor. And so it probably took, I don't know, 10 or 12 hours for me to complete over these last few months. It was pretty intense, but got all done with that. So on to the next step. I love celebrate recovery and the modality of, like, um going through and addressing all of these things that we're talking about. They ask these questions in a systematic way of, you know, what are you
How do you process? You said you go through the inventory and then you sorry, and then you process it. What are the steps of processing?
Well, and I think processing it is part of the inventory. So ask specific questions is the processing. So like what's an event that happened in your life? How were you hurt? How did it affect you, emotionally or physically? Or there's different categories you can choose. What was your reaction to the hurt? What did you do? How did you treat the person or other people? What are some unhealthy coping skills that came from this? So when we think about different events in our life, I don't know, you like, if something happened in your life that hurt you, I've never really thought about what were unhealthy coping skills that I developed through that hurt. So that's
Mm.
just it's just digging deeper. How did that hurt affect your life? How did you cope with it? What did you do? What are some lies that you told yourself through the process? And what is the truth? So the moral inventory is the processing of the different aspects of your life. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I love Celebrate Recovery. It's been a beautiful experience. I've met wonderful people there, and it's really encouraging. Like, we go to church every Sunday, and people are there, they go to learn and hear, different aspects of the Bible, different lessons. And that's it. It's an hour and a half. But Celebrate Recovery is it's digging deeper. Everyone there has issues, just like everyone at church, but that's not the time and place to talk about it, I guess. Or it could be, whatever. But it's beautiful to see the people go there week after week, and they're just honest about their struggles. Like, oh, I failed again, or I'm trying, or I'm just seeing the beautiful honesty and vulnerability of challenges in everyday life is refreshing, because I think a lot of people don't talk about that, and it's a safe
Yeah.
space for people to talk about that. So I love it.
Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know all the depth of that. And when people say process, and my brain only goes to what I did, right? So that's what what was the process? How do you process it?
Right.
Because it's not EMDR. I can't, and I can't process without it. I maybe I can, but that is the thing that worked for me, so I stuck with it. So it was interesting to hear how one goes about processing things. So
Yes.
it's asking the deeper questions
Yes.
for
Now,
you
when's
to
the last time you
think.
did EMDR? Because I would say you process things all the time in a healthy way without EMDR.
Yes.
Okay.
Now.
Now, yes, now.
No. Yes. Yes, now. That's true. So with EMDR, we're not asking questions. I'm just in my head. Um, and the movement, the back and forth movement, helps my brain. It's kind of like, when you're thinking of something that bothers you, something that's upsetting you, and you let your brain go, like you just let it spiral out of control. It's spiraling out of control, kind of like I just had an image in my head of, you see the space movies where the guy could like get detached from his tether and he spirals into the space. So that's what we do when we're thinking of whatever's bothering us without any guidance. It just goes. You when I'm worried or something, I think the worst, right? Your brain goes to the worst and you just go way out there. With EMDR, it lets you go out there, but you're tethered still to the station. So you are tumbling around, your thoughts are, but with the bilateral movement, it keeps you in a structured way to where you could figure out what it is, the core of it. And then that's why you're in therapy, to work on that core. And then if you don't, if you do know what the core is, the EMDR is just to process that core. A lot of it I didn't know, and then the EMDR helped me get to the core. But if you do know, it helps you process all of that, and it gets out of your mind to where it's not so upsetting, and you don't have lasting effects on it, like being jumpy.
I feel like if you're next to me, you'd be like, EMDR Desiree.
But so that was the difference, is it's not like asking you the questions, your brain, the questions are letting your brain get that deep, right? The EMDR, your brain does get that deep just by the movements.
Process. Mhm.
Yeah, but it's the same.
Reference to me being jumpy, I think that was episode 10. So if
Yeah.
it was not an inside joke, it's episode 10 if you haven't seen it. Um, yeah, and that is the whole point of this whole journey of self-discovery, awareness, and therapy, good friends, celebrate, recover. There's a lot of different things out there that could help you get to the place of like healing. That's the whole goal, is healing and a higher level of thinking and living. And
Yes.
yes. So I don't have anything else. Now I feel exhausted after all this confession of this work that I'm doing that has been, it will be beautiful on the other side, I'm sure, but right now it is not. And yeah,
I'm proud of you.
thank you. I didn't even know that I had this much work to do, quite honestly, until things come up, and then like, well, guess I need to process that. I'm, got to talk to my therapist about that. Yeah,
But now you're getting deep,
deep, very deep,
deep into the course.
right in the muck of stuff. And she's given me some wonderful tools on how, what to do now. And so between counseling and celebrate recovery,
A lot.
I'll be good to go in another 5 years.
Well, you're double downing on it. You got two different
Modalities and
modalities.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. So you're going at a super fast rate.
it is intense. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's fast. Like I wish it was. I wish it was
Yeah,
fast.
right, right.
It would be like super intense. Yeah, but I'm committed. I want to.
Do better. Be better. Live better. Yeah.
Yes. I got nothing else. Anyways, that's what I was trying to say. I'm done. Do you have anything else today?
How are we on time?
I think. Oh, I don't know what time we started recording.
No, well, what time is it?
Oh, I have another 30 minutes before I have to leave for my son's baseball game.
Oh, well then let's wrap it up so we can
Well,
edit it.
yeah, we'll see about that. So any ideas for next time conversation? Were you wanting to talk about something else today?
No, I like that we recapped on or we got deeper on the people that bother us, because I found it very interesting when we talked about the podcast, sure, you and I, and it opened up a whole other topic that all of us deal with, people that rub us the wrong way. And I don't think many people um think more into it than just this person sucks. But
It's not
no,
yeah, it's this person because they blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
And as you're talking, I was thinking it takes a lot of humility and humbleness to be able to be open to say, oh, maybe this is my issue. This is my insecurity. I think personal confidence too, to be able to do that rather than no, they just think they're super fancy and trying to show off with their language. It's
yeah,
easier to say the other person
yeah,
judge or grumble or all those things that we should not do.
yeah,
So there's great wisdom in that. I'm glad that we circled back around. So once
yeah.
again, leave a comment of all the people who bother you. Just kidding. Don't. Or if you're in therapy, have you experienced therapy? Have you experienced healing from therapy? There's a lot of dimensions about that. It has to be a good fit. I know a lot of people sometimes they start therapy and it's just not a good fit. That is super important too. So yeah, have you experienced healing from it? If you want to share your issues, that would make me feel better, please. After this vulnerable conversation of healing. Yeah, we're just keeping the convo going.
Yes.
All right, so join us next week. We're going to talk more about other stuff. Let's have a lighter episode.
Okay.
Anything you guys are interested in or topics that we should talk about, please leave a comment, share your thoughts with us, and we will tune in next week.
Yes.
All
See you
right.
next week.
All right. We'll talk later, Michelle. I love you.
I love you. Bye.